All right, I will let our student leader to start recording now, and now I would like to pass it on to Ali to introduce how to use Q&A function.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ali, and I'm a student leader at ISSS. Glad to have you all here today. So if you have any questions in today's webinar, please use the Q&A function to submit your questions. You can find it either in the bottom right of your Zoom window, or if you don't find it, there are like the three dots. Just click on it and it will pop up and you'll find the Q&A. Please do not use the chat to submit your questions. Use only the Q&A function. And so, yeah, we are excited to spend this time with you. I hope that this webinar be helpful. And I will pass it to Doris.
Hi, everyone. My name is Doris Lee. I use she, her pronoun, and I am a Global Gopher Experiences Leader at ISSS. Welcome to attend our session. Our panelists will share a lot of helpful information during today's session. If you don't have a chance to write down all the information, don't worry. This event will be recorded and uploaded to our website, when you can watch it again and again after the event as many times as you want. You can also find the recordings of our previous GG sessions on this website. GG includes many different helpful sessions just like this one. We would love to see you again at our future events. You can see all of our upcoming events on this slide. And our next event for all students is on July 2nd, 8 to 9:30 a.m. Central Time, which is Welcome to Your Homestay MM, in partnership with Global Minnesota. We will share the registration link for the event in the chat. And now I'll pass it to Beth Eisenstein, the Associate Director of Student Engagement and the International Initiatives in ISSS, to do the welcome remarks.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Beth Eisensee. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Associate Director at International Student and Scholar Services. We are so happy that you're joining us for the Global Gopher Experiences session today. And it's really fun to see that we have new students who are joining us from across the world. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and type into the chat function where you are joining us from. You might see someone from your own country, but students from across the world. So International Students and Scholars Services is the office on campus dedicated to serving the university international community. That means you. Our team of over 30 staff members are experts in the field of international education. Before we begin today, I do want to acknowledge the two U.S. federal government orders that are impacting many new international students. We know that these changes are challenging to navigate and cause uncertainty. Our goal is to assist you in each step of your journey to the University of Minnesota. The first order was on May 29th, when the U.S. State Department ordered all U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide to temporarily stop scheduling new visa appointments for students and exchange visitors. We are monitoring the situation very closely, and we will share any new information with you as soon as we are able to. A few key steps that you can take at this time. If you already have a visa appointment, keep it and move forward with the process. If you need a visa appointment, keep checking the consulate or embassy website to see if appointments become available. Once visa appointments do resume, schedule your appointment as soon as possible. The appointments are being paused so that the State Department can prepare to expand social media screening and vetting. So it's not clear how the screening will work, but you should be aware that anything you post, comment on, are tagged in or can likely be seen. So please do use caution. The second order was on June 4th. The U.S. administration issued a ban on entry to the U.S. for citizens from 12 countries. We have directly reached out to these new students who may be impacted. But if you're impacted and you haven't heard from us, please go ahead and email issnew@umn.edu. And if there's any additional support that we can provide, we will. I also encourage you to visit our ISS website. We have a page on our website titled U.S. Current Messages on Federal Immigration Changes. This is the website to go to if you want to see if there's anything new and what our advice might be. Our President Cunningham has made it clear that international students and scholars have been and always will be an essential part of the university community. You bring new knowledge and experiences to our university, and you've been doing it for over 150 years. You are a vital and vibrant part of our university community. We are honored to have you as University of Minnesota Global Gophers. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn our webinar about off-campus living over to our panelists. I'll pass it to you, Nita.
Thank you, Beth, for the welcome. We know that moving to a new country can be really overwhelming, but for this session, we really want you to know that you're definitely not alone. We have many professional staff as well as student leaders joining us today online, as you can see on the screen, and we're here to help you navigate off-campus housing as well as everything that comes with starting your journey here at the University of Minnesota as an international student. Today, we are joined by several campus partners from Housing and Residential Life, Off-Campus Living, the Department of Public Safety, as well as Student Legal Services to support you through this process. We are all here to provide valuable information as well as to answer your questions. We are also super lucky to have several ISSS staff members with us today who can help with questions related to ISSS requirements, your I-20 or visa, as well as other immigration-related topics. And finally, we have our amazing student leaders here as well, and you have already heard some of them presenting earlier. They're excited to share their own experiences with all of you, and we hope that hearing their stories can help you feel connected, supported, but also feel a little bit more confident that you as well can thrive here at the U. Next, I would like to hand it over to Austin Hollick from Housing and Residential Life to get us started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Austin, and I work in Housing and Residential Life at the University of Minnesota. Today, I will share more information on searching for off-campus housing near the university. We operate an off-campus housing website for students. Properties pay to advertise on this website, and by participating in this service, the properties agree to comply with our off-campus housing program policy. You can see current listings anytime by going to listings.umn.edu, and the map is updated daily. The best way to search for available apartments is to filter by your preference. You can use the filters at the top of the list to narrow your search, and you can filter by bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the price per unit or per person, and additional filters such as the dates available for move-in and amenities. Once you apply the filters, the map will only display the properties that meet your criteria. Public transportation routes are included on the map so that you know how close you are to the nearest bus or light rail train stop. You can favorite properties on this listing service as well, so make sure to create an account to save your favorites. When you are ready to contact the property, use the contact information on the listing. This will connect you with the leasing office at the property. You should ask about virtual tours if you're not available to tour in person. The biggest question we get from students living off campus is what to expect to pay. We work with vendors to track these market rates, and the rates on this slide are the expected cost for a unit in the university area for the past year on average. Rates for an apartment is the rate to expect to pay when renting the entire apartment. Tenants with roommates will often split the total rental amount in these living arrangements. Rent per bed is what you should expect to pay if you're just renting a bed within an apartment. Sometimes there are 2 beds within one room, so you would share the room with another person. And tenants usually don't split the rental rate here. This is the rent that you would pay yourself. And typically this arrangement is for a furnished apartment. Properties on the listing service should display a per person only rate if they rent by the bed. But you can always ask the leasing office about the rental rate. You can ask, is this rent per person or for the entire apartment? Take some time to think about your minimum requirements when looking for an apartment. My recommendation is to make a list of your own requirements for your future apartment and then ask the leasing office your questions directly to ensure you know what the apartment offers. So here are a few questions you can ask yourself. How much are you able to pay for rent? Do you want to live close to campus? Maybe a little further away from campus? When do you need to start looking for housing? I want folks to make sure that they do not feel pressured to sign a lease. Do not feel pressured to sign a lease. We have a high amount of housing units in our campus neighborhood, so make sure to complete all your required documents with International Student and Scholar Services. Make sure to complete all your required documents with the United States government, and be absolutely sure that you will attend the University of Minnesota before you sign a lease. And don't let anyone pressure you to sign one before then. Another good question to ask is, do you want your own bathroom or can you share a bathroom with a roommate? And what do you need inside your apartments? Some apartments are furnished and others are not. All apartments should have basic appliances like a stove and a refrigerator, but other newer apartments can include a dishwasher or maybe a laundry machine or even air conditioning in the summer. All buildings will provide heat, but sometimes air is separate or would require the tenant to buy a separate appliance for air conditioning. These are all good questions to ask when you're looking for an apartment. Another good thing to ask about are utilities. Some properties will include utilities in the total rental rate, meaning it is included in your rent, but other properties will require you to pay your own utility directly to the utility provider. Internet and Wi-Fi are not always included in the rent, so it's very important to understand the total amount of money it will cost to live in the apartment each month, and your utilities might be part of that equation. Overall, make sure to consider these questions when searching for an apartment, and the leasing office at the property that you're interested in should be able to answer these questions. Next, I will pass it on to Kendra from Off-Campus Living.
Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Kendra Tironi, and I am the Program Director for Off-Campus Living. I use she, her pronouns. Off-Campus Living is the office that provides resources for all the students who rent in the communities near the Twin Cities campus and all the students who commute from home. So most of you, I would anticipate, would be renting in the off-campus area. So if we go to the next slide, I just have a couple of resources for renters I want to highlight for you that our office is connected to that we try to promote. One is the Roommate Finder. The Roommate Finder is an online tool that our office runs wherein you would fill out a Google form to share information about what you're looking for, what neighborhoods, what price point. Do you need a place that's, allows pets, all sorts of things that you can answer questions. We approve students for the service who are either admitted or enrolled students. Pardon me. So it's only University of Minnesota students that are allowed to access it. You do need to search on your own to reach out to people to ask if they'd be interested and maybe be a good match for you. We are not allowed to match you ourselves from the university as staff with potential roommates. But we do give you access to the list so you can see other undergraduate students or graduate and professional students or people that are open to living with both. And so that's one great resource we offer. We also have a couple of groups on Facebook. We have a housing group and we have a roommate finder group. So it's a chance for you, if you have a Facebook account, for you to meet and interact with people in kind of a low level way to connect with them and ask questions. In the housing group, people will often post if they have sometimes openings within their space, maybe they're looking to sublet. It's a great place to get opinions on housing providers that you may be looking at. And the Roommate Finder group in particular is people that are also looking for roommates or maybe a sublet opportunity that they want to pass on to someone else. And then Austin already shared quite a bit of information about the listing service. His office provides it, but we always like to encourage students that when you are starting your search, that's the place we recommend most for you to start to look for available properties that would be available to rent. All right, on the next slide, I want to share, we have another resource that we call the Renter Education Canvas course. And this is basically an online class that you can complete that gives you information that we often share in our renter education workshops. And so there's a link that you can share. On the next slide, it'll show you the examples of what the different modules are. So if you advance to the next slide, you'll see there's 11 different modules that people can sign up for. Basically, you can do them in any order. You do it from the comfort of your own computer. So whether you're doing it, a laptop, a desktop, your tablet, they all work. The link there to take advantage of it is z.umn.edu/renter-education. And so this is a great opportunity. We do offer some in-person renter education workshops on campus in fall, usually in November, and then in spring, often in late January, early February. But this is available to you year-round that you can take advantage of. So on the next slide, I always like to just encourage you to think about when you're looking to live with other people, with roommates, to be aware that it's really good to set some expectations early with folks. And so when you're starting that search for a roommate, asking some questions to try and get to know people to make sure that you're making a good choice for you. I also want to share, there is a resource at the university called the Student Conflict Resolution Center, and that's an office that can provide mediation if you are having some problems maybe arise in your communication or things with a roommate, that they can help facilitate a mediation between you and other university students, and that is a free service that you can use. There, you can see their website at sos.umn.edu. All right, on the next slide, I'm going to highlight just a little bit of information about some of the area neighborhoods to help you figure out what might be a good location for you. So there are neighborhoods next to each of our campuses on the Twin Cities. So we have 3 campuses. The East Bank campus probably has the most majors and classes that we host there. And there are 3 neighborhoods that are adjacent to the East Bank campus. They are the Marcy Holmes neighborhood. I should say all 3 neighborhoods are some of the oldest neighborhoods in Minneapolis, so just be aware of that. Marcy Holmes is the closest to the edge of the East Bank campus. It does contain the Dinkytown business area, so if you hear people refer to Dinkytown, it's a commercial area with businesses and restaurants. They do have, nearby in the Marcy Holmes neighborhood, we have a Target Express location, which has some groceries, and a Lund's grocery store that's on the west end of the neighborhood. We do have metro buses, and all the campus connectors kind of touch the edges of that campus. This Marcy Holmes neighborhood. And then Southeast Como, it's just a little bit north of Marcy Holmes. So it's probably more like a mile to a mile and a half from the campus. It does have a small commercial area as well with some restaurants and stores. The grocery options closest to Southeast Como would be Joe's Market, which is a small grocery store in the actual neighborhood. And then there is a Cub Foods at the Quarry, which is a shopping center that is accessible by bus from Southeast Como. They also do have quite a few of the metro buses that do run through the neighborhood as well to make that convenient for getting to campus. And then in the Prospect Park neighborhood, if we're still on East Bank, sorry, that's on the east side of the East Bank neighborhood, and that does have a couple grocery stores. The Fresh Time grocery store is within, and then the Midway Market is just a little bit of a bus ride from that neighborhood. It also contains the Stadium Village business area with lots of restaurants and stores there as well. And again, light rail goes through the Prospect Park neighborhood in particular, and also has access to the buses and the campus connectors. On the West Bank, if we go to the next slide, those 2 neighborhoods that you'll see there is the Cedar Riverside neighborhood and the Seward neighborhood. Cedar Riverside is the closest to downtown. It does have multiple small grocery stores and convenience stores, also has access to light rail and to the buses for the metro area. The Seward neighborhood tends to have fewer students in it. It's only about 50% average rental. But there are some students that'll live there and whatnot, and it can be a quieter neighborhood because it is fewer students in that way. Grocery options there, the Seward Co-op is a great option, and the light rail access is there through adjacent to Seward and the bus lines as well. Another option for students on the next slide is the St. Paul campus. And the St. Paul campus has 3 adjacent neighborhoods to it. Technically, the St. Paul campus isn't actually in St. Paul. It's in Falcon Heights. And so Falcon Heights is the closest neighborhood to the St. Paul campus. It does have the Harmar Mall and the Rosedale Shopping Center kind of at the edges of that neighborhood. And the metro buses and campus connectors are really convenient there. The Como Park neighborhood is to the east of the St. Paul campus. That's the kind of the closest to the fairgrounds. and the bus system there. And then the St. Anthony Park neighborhood is kind of south and west of the St. Paul campus, and that is closest to the Midway Marketplace for grocery and also access to light rail and the bus system. All right, so as we move into one of the last of our resource sites, I always like to highlight for you, we have a program called Pack and Give Back, wherein we do a collection process with students in our residence halls and from the off-campus neighborhood for them to donate items that when they're moving out, that they're no longer going to use, but that are still perfectly great usable items. So we collect these things and we put them over at the University of Minnesota Reuse Program in their warehouse. And we make these things available to students to give back to you for free. And so we take things like microwaves, futons, mini fridges, and we typically do sign-ups for students in the res halls to get those items first, but sometimes there are extras that they'll have in the aisle. But there's, as you can see in the picture, examples of lots of household goods that you can take advantage of. And so they have those all on display in that free aisle. And we do a pop-up free store during Welcome Week, and you'll see an event on your Welcome Week schedule, the sustainability stop, and there'll be a pop-up free store at Great Hall on that Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also go and shop at the store directly, and the address is there, 883 29th Avenue Southeast. We also want to encourage you, when you're moving out, next spring and summer, for you to consider donating to the Pack and Give Back program as well. Another great resource that the reuse program offers is a storage option. And so I like to always highlight it because it has a short-term storage, which a lot of the local businesses that offer storage do not have a short-term option. So you can follow the link there at z.umn.edu/summer storage, and there's information there. So if you do need to store items over the summer, perhaps you're traveling, heading home and coming back again in fall, it's a great option. You can do storage from anywhere from 1 month to 3 months or for a whole year. Do it for one semester. It's up to you, but really reasonable prices. They're a little more affordable than what maybe some of the businesses off campus would offer. All right, on the next slide, I'm sharing information about our public transit options. One, you probably have seen in some of your research around the university, we do have a great bus system that the university offers. We have campus connectors that'll help take you around campus and from one campus to another between the West Bank, the East Bank, and the St. Paul campus. They also have small circulators. There's an East Bank circulator, West Bank circulators that can help get you around campus as well, paratransit options. We do have an app you can use on your phone that you can download called the Gopher Trip app that will help you know what times those different buses are running to help you know and where the different stops are, where you can find them to catch a ride when you need it. We also have really good public transportation in the Twin Cities. The biggest provider near our campus is Metro Transit, and they offer bus lines, light rail. We also have great bikeways in the Minneapolis-St. Paul neighborhoods, as well as on our campus. And so there's lots of great information. You can use the metrotransit.org/trip-planner link to look more closely at Metro Transit there. I do want to highlight that we have a universal transit pass. So basically you automatically have a pass for the buses and the light rail built in to your university ID when you are a student who's enrolled in classes and paying the student service fees. There is a transportation and safety fee that's part of your student service fees that is automatically part of your tuition bill. And so $45 portion of that helps pay for this universal transit pass. And it basically gives you unlimited rides on all the regular routes and the light rail. There is an additional fee for anyone using the North Star line, but for all the regular Twin Cities routes, it's already paid for. All you have to do to activate once you get your U card is that you tap it at the entrance to the bus or to the light rail to activate the card. The first time you tap it, it'll flash like a red light and an error message, but the second time you tap it, it should be good to go. All of the drivers on these services know about how it works. So if you have questions, you can ask, but they'll let you on, even if it's your first time activating when you get on the bus the first time. You can also go to the information desk at Kaufman Memorial Union when you arrive on campus, and they have a scanner there that you could use to activate. All right, on the next slide, I am going to invite in Nick Juarez to share and talk about some safety resources that our campus offers.
Good morning. My name is Nick Juarez. I am the Director of Community Engagement here at the Department of Public Safety on the Twin Cities campus. We have a couple services that we offer all students. One is our 624 walk program. This is a 24-hour day, 365-day a year uniform escort by our university security team. So if you ever want somebody to walk with you, you can call 612-624-WALK and schedule a walk. As long as you start or end your trip at a University of Minnesota property, you can use this service. And we do go off campus. We go to about a mile off of campus. So that's into the neighborhoods. So when you're considering where you're going to live in the fall, this might be a good thing to keep in mind as we're able to escort you off of campus as well. Gopher Chauffeur, this is something that our department recently took over. This is a free ride every day from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. during the school year. You can download the Translock app and then you can request a ride. And again, we go about a mile off of campus with this service. So again, this is another free service that's operated by our youth security team. So it's a uniformed individual working with the Department of Public Safety. It's a free ride to get you where you need to go. If you leave the library late or you have to come into the library early or class early, again, as long as you start or end at a university property, this is a service that you can use. Blue light kiosk, you'll see these scattered throughout campus. This is a quick way to get help. If you need fire, EMS, or police, find one of these blue lights, push that button, and that will start a live camera feed and an intercom with our dispatch center. And we'll dispatch our police, EMS, and fire to that location to help you. We also have a Rave Guardian app, which is a free app you can download. And basically, it's a virtual walking buddy using your contacts in your phone. If you don't want to use any of your contacts, you can use us. Our dispatch center will be your guardian, and we are able to be with you virtually as you walk from one location to the other. We do have also an off-campus safety center that's located in Dinkytown. Again, this is surrounded by a lot of apartment buildings where students live. It's 315 14th Avenue Southeast. This is a free place for students to come and study, eat lunch, hang out. We are open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday all year round. So this is an opportunity. You need a U card to get in. So it is a secure building for you to come in and just kind of hang out. You could study. We do have free popcorn there, free coffee, tea, and cocoa as well. But it's a nice place for people just to come and socialize. It is a safe place because there's always somebody from the Department of Public Safety there staffing it. So if you ever need to talk to an officer, whether it's one of our officers or with the Minneapolis Police Department, we're able to call to get an officer to talk to you, file a police report if you need to, or we have a lot of resources also at that service. We are a resource for you all. We do work very closely with ISSS through the entire year. We do have an intern on staff with us as well to address some of the specific safety concerns that you all have as international students. And so if you ever have a need, question, or a concern about safety, please reach out to the ISS staff and reach out to us. We are a resource for you. We want this to be an exciting and safe school year for you all. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kendra.
Great. So I just want to highlight, in particular, we have a newsletter that we send out to off-campus students, but you need to sign up for it. So scan the link, or you could also go to our webpage at ocl.umn.edu and scroll to the bottom of the page. And at the footer, you'll see a link to the sign-up form from the newsletter. And then lastly, on my last slide here, I just want to share our socials where you can follow us. Our office is located in Appleby Hall on the East Bank campus. We are down on the basement level in room 17, right across from the central stairwell and the elevator there if you need to find us when you do come on campus in person. You can look at our website and find great resources there. We are available to do consultations on housing searches, or questions come up when you're kind of struggling, or questions about the roommate piece. You can always email or call our office and we can connect with you even before you're on campus. My phone number is listed there, 612-625-8939. And you can email us directly at the office at ocl@umn.edu. We do on our socials like to try and provide great resource information. We share information about local events and events happening on campus to help you have a positive, fun, experience living off campus. So we're here for you. And please reach out if you do have questions or need assistance. And that Renter Education Module program is a really great resource as well. At this point in time, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Adam, over at Student Legal Service. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kendra. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Elling, and I'm one of the lawyers at Student Legal Service. Student Legal Service is a free full-service law office on campus, and it's available to all students who pay the student service fee, which I believe will be all of you. So our office has 7 full-time attorneys, 2 paralegals, and multiple support staff. And our practice areas range from immigration, criminal, consumer, all the way to landlord-tenant law, and that's what I am here to talk about today is landlord-tenant law. Before we switch to the next slide, if we can just go back to that previous slide, if everyone can take a note of our contact information and our email address, usls@umn.edu. This will be the last slide that contains this information. Keep track of that because I'm going to encourage you to make an appointment with our office before you sign a lease. Actually, throughout this entire presentation, I will encourage you several times to make an appointment with our office before you sign a lease. So when, and what I'm talking about, we can go to the next slide now, is a lease review. Lease reviews are a free service that we offer before students sign their leases because leases are binding contracts that are enforceable once they're signed. Doesn't matter if the lease has started yet or not. It doesn't matter if you were in Minnesota when you signed the lease. If once that lease is signed, the landlord can enforce and collect all of the money owed. And these are big contracts. They range anywhere from $8,000 a year to $15,000 a year. And that's a really big deal. So if you want your lease reviewed by a professional with experience who can give you advice and explain all of your responsibilities within the lease, please reach out to us and let us do a lease review for you. Because one of the most important things that you're going to do during this pre-signing phase is ensuring that you're signing a lease for a property that you actually want to live in. So make sure you understand the neighborhoods that you're looking at. Kendra has done a nice job going through the neighborhoods that we have, but make sure you know who the landlord is. And if you're able to do it, try to communicate with people who have lived at that property before, just to understand what it's like to live there or live with that property manager. And one other thing, and this has been touched on, but make sure that you have your visa in place before you sign a lease. I know that things are, it's an ever-changing landscape, and we want to make sure that you have that visa in place and that you know you're going to be able to come to Minnesota before you sign the lease, because like I said, once you sign it, it's enforceable. And if you sign it and then all of a sudden you can't get here, there could be an extra headache on your hands. But if that does happen, reach out to our office and we'll see what we can do to help you out with that. But really do your research on the properties before you sign anything. And like I said, do that lease review with us because we can give you some extra information about landlords and about what those neighborhoods look like. Okay, on to the next slide. So there's different areas of a lease that I just want to point out today. And the first one that I want to talk about is the security deposit. A security deposit is money that you're going to pay to your landlord at the time you sign the lease. And it's a deposit that should be given back to you with interest as long as you return the property to the landlord in the same condition that it was in at the time you started the lease. The landlord can only take from the security deposit to cover damages that are beyond ordinary wear and tear. So anything, any cleaning, any damage that's beyond ordinary wear and tear, the landlord can take the money from the security deposit, but they have to give you a written explanation for why they are taking that money from you. And they have to provide that written explanation or return the money to you within 20 days of the end of your lease. So if you run into a situation where they don't get it back to you within that 21 days, there are penalties that could be assessed against the landlord for not doing what they're required to do. And again, if you run yourself into a situation like that, reach out to our office and we will help you get that security deposit back. But I want to give you a couple of tips for protecting your security deposit. First of all, on the day that you go to move in, take pictures of everything. Take pictures of the floors, ceilings, walls, appliances, fixtures, and all the furniture that is provided in the property. Basically, if it's in the property, take a picture of it. Also, write down anything that you notice that seems to be out of place or damaged. and provide that writing to a landlord. And then last, you now have the right to request a move-in inspection with a representative from the property. This is a new law. So you can walk through the property with somebody from the property management company or the landlord, and you can note the condition of the property together. So you have a really good, these three things will give you a really good record of what that property looked like at the time you moved in. And then while you're living there, make sure you keep up with your cleaning, and you let the landlord know if there's any damage or anything that needs to be repaired. And then at the end of the lease, this is where you want to clean the place like crazy, clean like you've never cleaned before, pull out the refrigerator, pull out the stove, clean behind there, make sure everything looks great, and then request a move-out inspection with the same person who did the move-in inspection. Or maybe it won't be the exact same person, but you can get a representative. This is, again, another right that is new in Minnesota, that you can have a move-out inspection, and now you have a really good idea of what might be deducted or where you could spend more attention with your cleaning. So make sure you take advantage of that. And then you've got this great record of the move-in and move-out conditions. So there shouldn't be really any surprises when it comes time to return your security deposit. You should kind of have a good feeling. And if there's any discrepancies, if anything doesn't check out, once you get that reconciliation, you can reach out to the landlord and say, hey, we agreed that it looked like this at this time. Why are you charging me this fee now? And then some landlords don't take a security deposit. In fact, this is a trend that we are seeing more and more with our bigger corporate landlords in the area. They waive the security deposit, and I think they use this as a sales tactic to try to make it seem like a good deal. I don't particularly like it because the security deposit protects you more. But if they don't take a security deposit, you definitely want to do all of the things that I just laid out above, because what they'll do then is they'll just send you a bill. If there's damage beyond ordinary wear and tear, if there is cleaning that needs to be done, they'll send you a bill, and you don't want to get billed for that. Okay, on to the next slide. Every lease must identify who the parties are. That's going to be you and the landlord, and then any roommates you might have. They also must provide for you the contact information for the landlord, and the lease must identify the rent amount and any fees that might be associated with the lease, like a security deposit. Those fees that they are going to charge you must be listed on the first page of the lease, and the lease term must also be identified. Watch out for the lease to end early. We'll call it a short end lease, or a fantasy, or sorry, not a fantasy, but a phantom month, where you sign for 12 months, but you don't get a full 12 months. Almost every lease in the University District will have a start date in mid to late August, and then an end date of early August or even late July. And you're going to pay your rent to the landlord in what they're going to call installments. And they'll say the totality of your lease is worth X amount of dollars. And then they are just dividing up paying that installment into 12 different payments throughout the year. And they're saying that because the lease is worth this amount of money, we're just going to give you the convenience of being able to make these 12 individual payments. But you're not getting the full benefit of 12 months. So very often we're going to see leases that start on August 26th, but then you need to pay the full month of rent on August 1st. So a lot of leases that you'll sign this summer will say the first day, move-in day is August 26th, so that's the first day that the lease starts, but you have to pay the full amount of rent on August 1st. And then your last payment will be on July 1st of the following year. So you're basically paying for all of August 2025, but you're only getting the benefit of 6 to 7 days at most. There's a law that states that leases that end on any day other than the last day of the month, that month must be prorated. But what I'm explaining right now with loading it on the front end isn't addressed in the law, and that's how these landlords are getting around that law. So the law needs to change, but just that's something to look out for, that it might look like you're paying for more than what you're getting. One other important thing that must be on the lease is that it must identify the unit number. If the unit number is not on the lease, make sure it's on there before you sign. There's a law that says that every residential tenant must know what their unit number is before they sign their lease. So if it's not on there, it's our interpretation in our office that the lease is not enforceable, but it's also a disadvantage to you because you want to know the exact unit that you're going to be moving into. But I would advise you not to sign until you know the exact unit number that you're going to be occupying. But any confusion, anything, all of this is a lot and I'm throwing it at you. I'm talking fast. There's a lot of content that we're going through today. So if your one takeaway is, please just come and get a lease review with us. All right, let's skip to the next slide. Scams, these happen a lot. And unfortunately, a lot of our international students get targeted with scams, but trying to avoid these scams. Try to stick to only university-sponsored or hosted websites to find landlords. Listings.umn.edu is the greatest place to start. I would not recommend signing any leases through Craigslist or some random Facebook post or something like that. Stick to listings.umn.edu, and you should be in pretty good shape. Of course, we can't guarantee it, but I think you're going to run into fewer scams if you're using a university-affiliated website. It's just too often when students stray from those university websites that's when we see the scams. And if it's possible, have somebody, if you have a friend who's local, if you know anybody who's local who could go out and actually take a look at the property and get their hands on it and actually take pictures for you and meet the landlord or meet a representative from the landlord, that would be ideal. I know that that's probably going to be difficult for you, but if it's at all a possibility for you, try to do that. Never ever pay a deposit or anything to a landlord in gift cards. Try to avoid Venmo for payments to a landlord, and never ever pay anything in cash. I mean, these are just 3 instant red flags that you're probably dealing with a scam if they ask for gift cards, if they ask for cash, or if they're asking you to Venmo the money. Any reputable landlord is going to have an online portal for you to be able to pay them, and it's going to be branded with their company, name, and you're going to know that that's a legit website. So if they're asking for gift cards, if they're asking for you to do it via Venmo, or if they're asking for you to mail cash, see that as a red flag. But again, I know this is, I sound like a broken record, but if there's any doubt or you have any questions about anything, reach out to our office. Let us do a lease review for you. So the bottom line is these are big, expensive contracts. The landlords are going to deliberately make them look complicated. They are 25 plus pages long, really small print, and it's just really overwhelming to look at. But that's what we're here for. It's our job to look through those and explain everything that is in it and make sure that you understand what is expected of you within the lease, and then also to understand your rights as a renter, and we'll give you some good tips along the way. I think I'm now going to pass it to Cody. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Adam. That was some super important information there, so we're really glad to have you here. Hi, everybody. My name is Cody, and I work in checking in new students. In addition to your orientation checklist, international students must also complete another checklist for ISSS. We call it the New Global Gopher Required Tasks. You can see a picture of it here. There is a section for things you do before you arrive and a section for things you do after you arrive. This task list guides you through requirements you must complete and information you need to know as you prepare for your first semester. To ensure that these tasks get done, ISSS will place a registration hold on your account on August 27th. If you have not completed these required tasks, you will not be able to register for classes or change your registration until the tasks are complete. If you complete the list before August 27th, no problem. It won't affect you. So my advice is to start early. Be ahead of schedule, not behind. On the next slide, you can see one of the pre-arrival tasks. IPrep, or the International Student Preparation course, is separate from the orientation prep course and is just for international students. You need to do both. IPrep is an 8-part online course full of very useful information about visa regulations, academic culture, what to expect when you arrive, and more. It will take a few hours to do, so don't wait until the last minute. It is also required that you update your new address right away. It's one of the post-arrival required tasks. You can enter it in MyU, and then it will automatically be updated in other systems too. Anytime your US mailing address changes, you should update it in MyU right away. Next, I will pass it to my friend Sarah, who will get into some questions and answers.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cody. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Krieger. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I work in International Student and Scholar Services. I specifically work with sponsored students, so students who have funding from like their home country government or the US government. So hello to any sponsored students out there in our audience today. I'm very honored to be here today to moderate our Q&A. This is a very important time for you to get your questions answered. We have all these amazing experts on this webinar for you today. You can see everybody listed here, and you've also heard from a lot of people today, like Austin, Kendra, Adam, Nick, Cody, Beth. I mean, we're all here, and we've got some amazing student leaders as well. So I'm going to kick it off and start going through some questions, but please feel free to use the Q&A function to ask more questions. You'll notice in there that sometimes we'll put in like, this question will be answered live. I will take those questions and ask our expert panel here today. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat, or sorry, in the Q&A button. And first I wanna also, we have a little tech item. Amora, could you make Austin a co-host again? Thank you so much. And then I will kick it off. Actually, Austin, I have a couple questions for you. So we got a question in the Q&A earlier during the webinar asking about graduate students. Are graduate students eligible for on-campus housing and accommodations?
That's a great question. On-campus housing and accommodations are very limited for graduate students this year because we have such a large first-year class and we prioritize first-year students in on-campus housing. There's no space this year for on-campus housing for graduate students. However, the two properties that are specific for graduate students and students with families are the Como Student Community Cooperative and Commonwealth Terrace Cooperative. One is located in Minneapolis, one is located in St. Paul. Those two properties are also in high demand, but they operate a little bit different than our on-campus housing for first-year students in that they're more traditional apartment style apartment layouts. And also they're specifically prioritized for graduate students and students with families. So if you go to the housing website for graduate students, which is housing.umn.edu/graduate, you will see links to those two properties there. They are owned by the university, but managed independently as a co-op. So you can go to each individual site. They have two separate applications, and they generally have long wait lists as well. But it's possible that you could find housing there for maybe the spring semester or the subsequent fall semester next year.
Thank you so much. And my next question is also for you. Are there any temporary housing options available for the time before the semester starts? So before somebody's lease starts, for example, how are students able to find short-term housing? And is there anything available through the University of Minnesota?
There is some options for international students, either international students who will arrive early and need to live on campus for a little bit before they arrive early, or temporary summer guest housing. I will share links in the chat with that because those have specific dates of availability and they only go a few days into August. So if your early arrival is, say, late August into September, you would have to look for alternative options off campus. But let me put some links in the chat that we can share as resources for that international student housing arrival piece.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so everyone check those links if you're interested in housing options before you, like the classes start, before your lease starts, before maybe you move into your dormitory. Okay, my next question is, does it make sense to try to find housing when a student comes to the US and is already here? Or is it better to find something before a student arrives? And we got a couple experts here, I think, on this topic. So I'll kind of pass it on. Austin, Kendra, Adam, any of you, if you'd like to take this one.
Yeah, sure. So I think ideally, we would always strongly recommend that if possible, that you see the unit you're going to live in person yourself. because that way you can make the best choice about if it's the right fit for you. However, some people would really prefer to do, there are many video tours available for complexes. If you have a friend here on campus, you could ask them to do a video tour with you on the line to be able to see things. And if that helps you feel better to have a place already signed before you come, you can do that. We would strongly recommend that you wait to see places in person so you know it's the right fit and that you don't end up in a place that's more expensive or not as convenient location-wise for you. Sometimes being able to see it in person can help with that. But yes, can you do it before you arrive? You can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the detail of that. And I had somebody do that for me once, and it was really helpful to have someone that I trust physically see the place first. Thank you for that. My next question is about safety and security, which we have Nick here today, which is so amazing to hear about from the experts on campus security here. So our question is, how is security and safety at off-campus locations, off-campus accommodations, kind of near campus? Nick, would you like to talk about that?
Sure. I put in the chat for everyone. That is a dashboard for the Minneapolis Police Department for neighborhoods. And so you're able to search, what does a crime look like around a building or an apartment building that you'll be looking at. The University of Minnesota does have our own police department, and our primary jurisdiction is East Bank, West Bank, and St. Paul campus, all the official buildings of U of M. But there is a small area within what we call the Marcy Homes neighborhood that we have taken over 911 calls for that as well. And so we were able to address some of those concerns. I would definitely, when you're looking at properties, pull up the crime maps, see what kind of crimes are happening around there. If there's a lot of property crime, which means bikes getting stolen. Some of the questions to ask the apartment building is, how do we get in? Is it a secure building? Do you need a key fob to enter the building? Do they have a third-party security? Is there staff that lives on site? How responsive are staff to concerns of students? So all those are kind of good questions to look at. Are the cameras present, available? Are those cameras working? As you tour the property, that's why it's another good reason to actually look at the property and tour it if you can before signing a lease to make sure you feel comfortable there. Because ultimately you're going to be there for a year, so you want to make sure you feel comfortable in that property. And then again, how close it is to campus. What are the commuter routes to there? In some of the neighborhoods around the university, it is a little dark. There's not a lot of street lighting. And so we want to make sure that you have a clear path to your building, to the campus when you're living off campus. So again, are the streets well lit at night? How late does the commuter buses roll or the Gopher connector? Again, you have the Gopher chauffeur and the 624 walk within that mile radius. So again, if you're looking for a place to live, maybe be within that mile radius, and that way you can use the safety resources that the department has for you to use.
Thank you so much. Kendra, do you want to add anything?
Nick, I think highlighted really well. We always want to encourage, there are lots of lists on the public safety website of safety tips. We have a few of their tips on our website as well. Just encouraging students to be well aware, as Nick mentioned, like planning your walking routes in advance can be really helpful. Knowing where those blue kiosk lights are, if they're on your path, paying attention to that. We always want to encourage students to prepare themselves when they're walking to avoid risk. And so walking in groups, walking in well-lit areas, avoiding having like your earbuds in so that you're aware of your surroundings. Maybe don't have your phone out while you're walking around if you don't need it. Obviously, if you need it for directions or something, yes. But keeping those things in your pockets, out of sight, and never hand your phone to a stranger. Sometimes students will chat up with people they meet, and someone will be like, oh, why don't you give me your phone? I'll enter my Snapchat there for you or my contact. And it might be someone who's actually stealing your phone. That's happened many times near campus. So I just want to encourage students, like, don't hand your phone to people you don't know, that kind of thing. Just make some good choices. But, there's great information on that crime safety map as well that Nick linked. So just being aware, but we do have crime in our area. So there's no one area where there is no crime. We're in an urban area, be aware. But everyone has their own, personal definition of what safety means to them. So you have to find where your comfort level is. But know that like the most common crime we have is bike theft, right? So
Thank you both so much. Again, we're so lucky to have you here to talk about safety, which is so, so, so important. And yeah, appreciate the comments and insights. We're going to pivot a little bit now and talk about roommates. So also an important thing for housing, right? You want to make sure you're having really safe and comfortable and awesome time with your roommate in your new place. So Kendra, I'll maybe ask this to you first, and then we'll turn it to our student leaders to maybe give some of their perspective. How can somebody find a roommate? How do you make friends to find a roommate or pick one? And then there's another kind of point to it. What happens if there's a conflict? Any tips on resolving those?
Sure. So we do have that roommate finder tool that I highlighted in the session where students can fill out that Google form to help them find others. Undergraduates use it as well as graduate and professional students, and you can identify if you want to live only with one or the other or with both, and that can certainly help you in that way. We do have those Facebook groups as well that are a way and a chance to meet people. I do always strongly recommend to students, and maybe the students want to highlight, finding students in your program can be a great way. So other students that are studying within the same major, within your same college can be a great resource. Finding students through student organizations that you may meet. So for future years and living, finding you connect with people in that way. If you do have roommate problems, you would always want to start with your own apartment manager, and they should be able and willing to mediate issues between you and your roommates in the space where you're currently living. If, for instance, like you need a little more assistance or they're not being as helpful for some reason, we do have the Student Conflict Resolution Center that is available. So, we did put that information up earlier as a link that you can find as well. Not sure if the other student leaders want to share kind of other experiences in finding roommates.
Yeah, Youth, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I think it's apart from just finding, it's also connecting with your roommate as well. It seems like the question is structured that way. I find that as an international student, you are bringing a lot of story and cultures to the space, along with your roommate who potentially be different from you. So first step is always to actually approach it with an open mind and learning of different cultures and experience you are living abroad. With another persons. I have lived with people from different country than mine. Mostly I live with international students as well. After the time we share a story about cooking, sharing story about places, sharing story about culture. This is my first year living with my fellow countrymen, and surprisingly, there's a lot to learn even about your own country. I learned that sometimes Taylor Swift addiction is contagious. We definitely have a Taylor Swift shrine at our house now, which I'm excited to actually get along with my roommate. So we actually play around more in the same vibe. So there's a lot of way to be in a relationship with your roommate, either just exploring, but always approach it with an open mind. And feel free to also adjust, be excited about learning of different cultures. And of course, there's no such thing as one right answer to everything. You will come to learn later on that you might not know enough even about your own culture as a process of lifelong learning journey for you too.
Awesome. Thank you. And hooray for Taylor Swift. Ali, how about, would you like to share next?
Yeah, I guess I personally benefited a lot from the roommate finder portal. This is how I found my first roommate. And I guess I would say communication between roommates about like your needs, things that you are kind of maybe allergic to, if you are kind of like prefer to have like a quiet space at night or things like that, is just like talking to your roommate ahead of time would greatly reduce the chances of having conflict. And I would say, I mean, as Kendra said, like talking to the apartment manager or something, if something come up, they can kind of like also, if it's a big complex, there are some options where they can like trade the spots, so they can move you from your apartment to another one and get someone else. So these kind of like options are sometimes are there. So kind of also that could be helpful.
Thank you so much. Also good to know that maybe, yeah, if it's a big complex, you could switch locations, apartments. That's huge. That's awesome. Amora, how about you next?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So I completely agree with being open-minded and setting boundaries, and kind of asking your roommate questions such as, are you an early person or a night person? And allergy, that's very important. What about bringing guests? How loud do we want to be? And etc. So I think building boundaries and kind of asking questions is really important to finding a roommate. From my experience, I found my roommate through living in the same dorm. She was my neighbor, and we just kind of asked each other questions, and we kind of agreed. We have very similar lifestyles, and she was also a fellow CSE student, so we would both stay up all night kind of grinding and studying together. So I also recommend kind of looking for a roommate in your department, in your where you have like a similar degree, similar workload. So that really helped. And when you run into a conflict, I think it's always best to kind of talk with your roommate. And then if both of you decide to maybe move out, kind of finding a subleaser is an option.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I once had a class with my roommate and it was actually really fun. Doris, how about you next?
I agree with the information just mentioned before. And to add a little bit more about to chat and have a conversation to make a friend. So I will suggest probably we could start from asking a simple question like, what do you want to eat for lunch? What do you want to eat for dinner? And also you could try to like find a time to hang out together and to probably explore more about Minnesota. And if you face the conflict, I would say try to talk and have a conversation with your roommate. And yeah, just as mentioned before, if you want to avoid conflict earlier, so you can try to list out some rules for both of you that both of you should follow. And I think to use all of these tips mentioned before, you will have a better experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know it's a big question, right? You're going to be living with somebody. Thank you all so much for your perspective on that. Now we're going to kind of shift a little bit more to maybe some more details about housing. And first, we got a question about paying for housing. And so the question that we received was, is it possible for a student to use money from scholarships to pay for off-campus accommodations? Kendra, can I ask you to answer that one?
Sure. So typically when a scholarship is received, often it is sent directly to the university. And if that's the case, it will normally be applied to your university account, and it will help cover, if you have tuition, fees, bookstore charges, that type of thing. Any amount that's remaining that once your university account is paid will typically be paid out to you either by check or direct deposit. And then those monies can be used to help pay for your rent or your food, things like that. There are occasions where sometimes scholarships will be paid directly to you, and then you will choose how to apply that money if you want to have it help pay for your tuition or charges that you have directly with the university. Or you can also use those for your educational expenses, which your rent and your food would be considered part of those educational expenses.
Thank you for that answer. And I'll add on to that and say, we mentioned check or direct deposit. So make sure, like, as part of the immigration regulations, always have your address updated, because if you do get a refund, you want to make sure that check is sent to the right address. And there is an option to link your bank account with the university. side. So a lot of times that's, for scholarships or a way if you have an on-campus job, but there is a direct deposit option as well through One Stop. I'll drop that in the chat. It's really then simple, and if you do get a refund from your student account, it's much faster than the check option. And I hope everyone knows what a check is, but it's something that you sign, and now you can take a picture of it and deposit it into your account, or you can go to a bank. But yeah, there are some great options on receiving if that you do get extra funding after scholarships are applied. All right, next up, I have some questions that are really specific to leases, guarantors, and other parts of signing documents for apartments. But I do wanna, I know we mentioned this earlier in the presentation, but I wanna ask it again to kind of reiterate this information. Adam, I have a question for you. Do international students need the F1 or J1 visa to secure housing? Would you recommend that they have that in advance before securing housing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessary to have it to secure the housing, but I would recommend having it before they sign any leases, because like I mentioned in my portion of this presentation, once you sign that lease, everything is fully enforceable. So if for some reason you can't get your visa and you can't get here, but you already have a signed lease, landlords are probably going to try to make you hold you accountable and liable for that lease.
Thank you so much for reiterating that. Super important. These leases are legal documents, so good to make sure that you have everything in place before you arrive here. So next up, we have some questions regarding a guarantor of their apartments, leases. Some places require one for the rental application. Can you explain what the qualifications are to be a guarantor?
Yeah, for sure. And first, just in case anybody might not know what a guarantor is, it's somebody who is literally guaranteeing the lease. So it's kind of like a co-signer. So you'll sign the lease, and then you'll have somebody else sign the lease with you, essentially saying that if the original lease signer, the tenant, the person who's going to live there, if they were to default on the lease or have difficulty making payments on the lease, the guarantor is guaranteeing that they are going to make those payments. And each landlord has a different requirement for guarantors. So they're going to be lease specific. Usually the guarantor has to be able to show that they are financially viable, generally have to prove or show some sort of proof of income that is double or 3 times the amount of the monthly rent. They'll need to have good credit or good credit score, and usually have an address within the United States. That's not true for every landlord and every guarantor. Like I said, it's lease specific. So it just depends. And then if you can't secure a guarantor, a lot of landlords will say then that you have to pay the first and the last month of rent, or the first and the last 2 months of rent. And then that would waive the requirement for having the guarantor, because it's showing some sort of financial viability. But if the landlord does ask for more than 1 month of rent up front, and then they also ask you for a security deposit, the security deposits like I talked about earlier, that security deposit can't be more than 50% of what your monthly rent is. So they can't, essentially what the law is saying is they can't hit you with additional fees or additional security deposit that is equal to a month of rent, because that is just so financially overwhelming for people. So again, I've plugged this a lot, but to understand the guarantor and the requirements of your guarantor, or waiving the need for a guarantor, bring your lease to Student Legal Service and we'll do a review for you and let you know specifically what your lease requires.
Thank you so much. Also, I also appreciate this information. It's really good because I get asked this question a lot too from new students. Thank you for going into such detail about it. And you mentioned again, I know you did in your presentation, about reviewing leases. So we have 2 questions actually about those. So I'll send both of them to you. Can Student Legal Services review a lease even if it's already signed? And do we have to pay, or do students have to pay for that service?
I'll answer the second question first. No, it is a free service. As long as you're paying the student service fee, you are entitled to our services, and you won't have any out-of-cost expenses for us to provide any legal services to you. So that includes the lease review. And then the other question is, will we do a lease review if the lease is already signed? Yes, of course. Of course, we would prefer to do the lease review before you sign the lease. Even doing it after the fact is still good, so you understand some of the intricacies and some of the things that are required of you within that lease. And then also it gives us the opportunity to give you some rental tips to protect yourself with things related to security deposit or maintenance requests or privacy violations, things like that. So yes, still, even if you've signed it already, still make an appointment and we'll go through the lease with you.
Thank you so much for that. And kind of tied to that, we received a question about if you're not satisfied with your lease and perhaps it's already been signed, what could somebody do? And tied to that is, can you talk a little bit about subleasing?
Yeah, for sure. So subleasing is when you're living in a property and then you have somebody else sign your a sublease to take over your spot in the property, and then they are responsible for the lease through the original term that you signed for. And that's a good option sometimes when people study abroad or they travel home for the summertime, or like you said, if they're just generally dissatisfied with their lease, then subleasing is a good option to have somebody take over, so you don't have that financial responsibility for a property that you either can't live in or don't want to be living in anymore. Like with the guarantor, each landlord is going to have their own specific requirements for a sublease. But one thing that you can know across the board for all landlords is that they are going to require you to have a written permission from them before you can advertise or say that your property is available for a sublease. So if that's a route that you're considering going down, reach out to your landlord and say, I'd like to sublease. Do I have permission to sublease the property? And get it in writing from them that you do have permission to do that. If you don't, they might say that you have materially violated the lease, and then you're dealing with a whole other sort of headache with that. But so get permission first and then find out what the requirements are for doing a sublease. Generally, there's going to be a fee somewhere between $300 and $600 just to do the sublease. They call it an administrative fee to process the sublease. And it's your responsibility to find that replacement tenant. So you'll have to do the advertising. You will have to generally coordinate the showings to the potential subtenant. You can ask the landlord to facilitate all of that. Most will just wholesale flat out say, nope, we're not going to do that. Some will say, yes, we will help you with that, but you have to pay an additional fee on top of the already kind of spendy sublease fee. So if it's something that you're considering doing, understand that there are going to be costs associated with it, and there's going to be some legwork on your end to get the job done, but it's certainly a possibility.
Thank you very much. And another topic that I know you touched upon in your presentation, but just to kind of reiterate, because this one's a big one, as you mentioned earlier, international students, it's very like scams can kind of go towards them some of the time, and it's very scary and an awful situation. And so do you have any tips on identifying a scam when choosing housing?
Yeah, like I said during the presentation, if anyone's asking you for gift cards, for cash, for Venmo, those are the biggest red flags that you're going to see for a scam. Anybody who would not be willing to send you pictures or a video walkthrough. Kendra mentioned video walkthroughs, maybe having a friend do that, but even you could just ask the landlord to do that. And if they're not willing to do that, that could be a scam. And when you have a video walkthrough done, you want the walkthrough to start from the outside of the building to the inside, so you know that they're at the address that, so they can show the address on the outside of the building, and then as they enter into the property, that they're going into the appropriate unit, or if it's a if it's a single family house, whatever it is, make sure that you're getting, that where they're starting from is the actual address and that they have the right to rent that property. Because that's what we run into a lot of times is somebody will just take an address and just put it online and say that it's available for rent. Then someone starts making payments and they never had the right to rent that place in the first place. It was not a property that they owned. So again, broken record, but I will repeat myself until my throat is dry and sore. Come and let us do a lease review for you, because we can help identify a scam. We can, kind of talk to you about the situation, how you learned about the property, and figure out if this seems fishy or not. And again, also sticking to those university affiliated websites like listings.umn.edu.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you reiterating, because it is super, super important. And I'll just say, like, trust your instincts out there. If you feel like something's wrong, you can also always email ISSS and just be like, I'm not sure about this. Can you point me to the right person if you're not really sure who to go to? But we can always direct you to the right resource on campus. So if you ever have any instinct of something's not right here, let us know, let Student Legal Services know, and we can try to help out and step in. So we don't want any of our students to get scammed.
Sarah,
So
if I can just jump in real quick on that,
please, yes,
yeah,
please.
Again, this is such a huge issue right now. There's a variety of scams going on, whether it be your immigration papers not in compliance, you owe the government money, there's an arrest warrant for you, the scamming of housing right now, because this is kind of the prime time for it as people are looking for housing. It is so very important, as it's just been said. Tell somebody if something doesn't feel right, if something just tells you that something is wrong about what you just did, who you're talking to, or about a phone call you received, a text message you received, an email you received. It may look like it's coming from the university. It may look like it's coming from the U.S. government. If it just seems fishy or it seems odd, please reach out to somebody. Reach out to someone from ISS, Student Legal Services. You can file a report with us. Because when we find out about this information, we want to make sure that we get the word out, because I guarantee you're not the only victim of a scam. The scammers turn it up. This is the time of year they turn it up, because they know people are looking. There's a lot of things going on right now that it's easy to do a scam, to get money. And so I want to make sure that if you are a victim of a scam, something doesn't feel right, call ISS, let them know. Call Student Legal Services, call the Department of Public Safety so we can file a report. And so once we have the report, if we start seeing a pattern, we can definitely look into it. And also we can start getting warnings out. We will start from our department, we'll be sending out some more scam information as we get a little bit later on, I would say into the summer, but it's July already next in a couple of weeks. So we'll be start getting stuff out to just some of the scams that are going on. But again, this is so very important, because especially for our international student population, this is the population that gets hit every single school year by scams. And so I want to make sure that everybody's safe, to let you know there are scams going on there trying to get money out of you. So if something doesn't seem right, please reach out to somebody.
Thank you so much for reiterating that and sharing more details. Yeah, super important. Anything feels off, you have so many people here at the university who want to support you and support your journey here. Just reach out and we'll get you connected to the right people and help out. To kind of end now, I'm going to now totally pivot a little bit and ask our student leaders, kind of as our ending question, to hear about the neighborhoods that you all live in and what the experience is. So to get students to have a little bit more information about the neighborhood. So youth, I'll have maybe you start first. Do you want to talk about the neighborhood you live in?
Okay, I found the unmute button. Hi, everyone. Yes. Originally, I actually started off my first year living in the Quadrant, Delaware, which is in the Prospect Park neighborhood, but it seems like the other will be talking about Prospect Park already. I am currently living in the Como Southeast neighborhood, which is at the Como CSCC. We talk about one of the graduate student housings right now. I think my experience living here has been great. I think the easiest part of it is, one, it's very affordable. The price for a townhouse apartment is 1,200 that you split with your roommate, so that's 600 per person. You have enough space for both of you, a very big share living space, which basically enough for like a whole sofa, a whole TV set, and everything as well. The utility are all included in CSEC, so that has been the highlight of my times. Like only pay the rent and that's it. It's also accessible to campus as well. We have bus 3, which is run frequently from the edge of the apartment complex that I'm part of. So that has been great. More importantly, I know if you are with family, there is a daycare located in the Como CSCC complex itself, which you can actually place your young children. And there's basketball courts, football pitch, football, I mean football, soccer, football, and also a lot of playgrounds around all of this neighborhood too. So you are welcome to also access that. It's also close to the reuse center. Unfortunately, the housing around here are technically unfurnished most of the time. So reuse center has been great in terms of getting the material needed. Neighborhood-wide in Como Southeast, I believe it's quiet. It's very quiet. Most importantly, it's very quiet. The closest shopping or at least grocery store says there's this walking distance, a potentially 10-minute walking distance, and there's like a speedy market that you actually have to take bus 3 down to closer to, I think Ali will be sharing a little bit more in CTC, where we actually connected quite closely with bus 3. But we do have that in common. And you can also access to the campus for Targets, and also bus 3 go directly to Trader Joe, which take a little bit more time, but then it's all good. If you are interested in finding other alternate grocery stores, like a grocery store that sells Asian food, or in other words, in my case, Southeast Asian food, I actually have to take bus 3 and transfer. So the journey take a bit of time, but if you're driving, that's not an issue as much. But if you're taking the bus, it probably take you a good half an hour to get to the grocery store, but still have a variety of options surrounding us as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, youth. You covered a lot of different neighborhoods, and also so important, utilize the buses, the light rail. They're really helpful in getting around. I see we are running a little short on time, so I'm going to end it here, but we've got lots of experts. So if anyone has any questions, you can always reach out issssnew@umn.edu, and we can direct you to one of our student leaders to learn a little bit more. And I also want to have a big thank you to all of our panelists. You answered our questions so detailed, so thoroughly. We are so grateful for your insights and your expertise. Thank you all for joining us. So I am going to kick it off. I'm going to pass it to Cody to wrap everything up.
And I am going to pass it to someone to tell us how to stay connected.
And yes, that will be back to me. No worry. Hello, everyone. Yes, there's a lot of ways to stay connected with ISSS. So if you're interested in staying connected with ISSS, for sure, as new international students, I believe its importance one is to actually check out frequently the new student website in ISSS at www.isssusumn.mu. And the Global Gopher Experience website that you will be seeing in the chat shortly, so that you can actually review all of this information on this recorded video or register for our upcoming event. You can also contact us at issssnew@umn.edu via email, and our ISSS staff will be responding to you. And as an international student, it's never wrong to ask any questions. I have asked millions of questions to Sarah before I arrived. Sarah was the first person I virtually met, and now I think it has been a wonderful time working with Sarah for 4 years. So as you can see, the first question is hard, but I recommend that you start taking that first step if you need support. It's one email away, and you will probably get your answer. We will definitely help you find the right answer as we go. And of course, I will actually pass it back to Doris to actually talk us through about the next TGE seminar.
Yeah, thank you. So as mentioned before, our next event for all students is Welcome to Your Home State on July 2nd, 8 to 9:30 a.m. Central Time. This session will be partnership with Global Minnesota as well as the other colleges in Minnesota. So if you're interested in attending, please make sure to register in advance. And that wraps our session. Thank you so much for joining us.